tree, and we were looking at these people in our family tree, and I said, oh my gosh, that famous rock star is our fourth cousin or fifth cousin, I think, right? Hi, An, thank you for your work today, because what you completed in your introduction with the body, not body paragraph, but introduction, is exactly what I want to model for today. You had the annotations in there, or notation citations. And so I finished preparing for today's class, and then I read your work. I said, oh goodness, she's already got it here. So it was a nice surprise.
I was structure writing introduction, because I will always put it in the last, but when I try to write something,
Yeah.
even though I'm not conducting completely my dissertation, but then I think I write something, but it's really hard, and then it takes time, and then the more I learn about, the more I learn with you, the more I understand writing is very difficult task.
Yeah, it is. Today I have an interesting example for you, because I've noticed with the younger secondary school students, many of them have been relying on AI to help them write. So I'm trying to give them what in English is called a workaround. A workaround is to accept this current situation. I'll put this in chat, workaround. Accept the situation and try to work with it is called a workaround. So I accept that they're using AI to write their academic writing, but I want to help them. I'll show you how to do that tonight. I think the younger students might like that. Okay, let's see. Alice, are you here? Alice, is this Alice 13 who sent the homework to the wrong group? Which,
No.
Oh, that's the other Alice? That's Alice 13, right? Alice, are you Alice 11 now or Alice 12? Oh, her microphone went out.
12.
12, okay. So do you want to be called Alice 12 now? It's kind of sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Alice 12. All right. Mr. Ann, how are you? Now you say Ann, right? He's good. All right. Let's see. We have Henry Min. Oh, Lian Le. How are you there? Lin Le. You help me with the pronunciation. Lin, right?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't do the homework. I have a long day
okay.
today.
Sometimes adults don't have a chance to do the homework, but then that's fine. I give homework every class. A very intelligent young lady, she's a secondary school student. She she gave me the same homework that she did about 1 month ago. And I said, like, Stephanie, this is the same homework. It's a wonderful story, but why are you giving it to me a second time? We should have new, fresh, exciting homework. And she just didn't understand. She thought the system was to give your revised work back to the teacher. So I said, oh, okay. So you have some experience with that, with giving back revisions to the teacher, right? Okay, so we'll see if Ms. Duke can record this to the cloud. All right. Hoang, are you there? I just received Hoang's homework. Hoang, are you there? And I left a note for Hoang. It was an interesting thing, Hoang. Hoang, for your homework, I used this expression, narrative. I think that's a really good one to use, narrative. Let me show you what I mean. I'll put Zalo up on the screen and you can see what narrative means exactly. The way I used it as a suggestion for Hoang. Hoang, you wrote this interesting thing in Google Documents here. Let me put the Google Documents up here. Now, I hope it doesn't do something strange, you guys, because, oh, there it is, Hoang's homework. Okay. Hoang, if you're here, this is what I want to show you. You did this multicolor thing. Thanks for color diagramming it. And I highlighted this here. This concern surrounding the way students learn have been predominant among the general opinions when no questions about the way they feel or how they have been treated have been asked. So this asked for requests to be edited, but I didn't have the permissions. But I highlighted this here for you because if you want to change this predominant, have been predominant, you could use this expression narrative. Narrative is used a lot in academic writing. and in social sciences as well. So what that sounds like is, if you check the chat box, we could say it's the predominant narrative, but that's almost saying the same thing. You can say the dominant narrative, and that's the generally accepted perception. Yeah.
Ini chip bisa belum robot.
All right. Hello, Hayan. Hayan, were you speaking Russian?
Yes.
Oh, that's so cool. Okay. Are you in Moscow or St. Petersburg?
I'm in Moscow right now.
So is it spring there?
Not yet. We have snow.
Oh, you still have snow. My goodness.
Yes, we still have snow. We have a typhoon, no, not typhoon, but a big snow.
Are any flowers coming up though?
Not yet. We have a lot of snow outside.
Okay, where I'm from in Chicago, like you get these beautiful Dutch tulips, and then it snows on the tulips. So it's really quite strange. You see snow around gorgeous red and yellow tulips in April. That happens sometimes, right? By the way, Hayan, I was trying to explain to the students, and I'll put this in the chat. Last night, they were very curious about what sleet, the frozen rain, is. And I was trying to explain, only one boy knew it because his family lived in Korea. And so he knew what that freezing rain was. And so, Hayan, have you experienced that freezing rain in Moscow, where it's just so cold because it's almost rain, it's not snow, it's in between? And it's really dangerous to drive a car on, called sleet.
Yes, I think I have, but I don't have a car. So
okay, yeah. I absolutely hate sleet. Just quickly, so the students, if you want to learn a cultural point, many students go and study in foreign countries. So my advice to you, check the reports on the television or on internet about sleet, because there are always sleet warnings. What it looks like. It's dangerous to drive on, ride a bicycle on, even walk on. You have to be careful with sleet. But what I really hate about sleet, there's sleet. It's ice that hits the road, and there's more sleet there. What I really hate about sleet is you try to use an umbrella and the wind is blowing, and your jacket and your hat just get completely wet. Everything gets covered in ice during sleet. Snow is beautiful. Snow is like friendly. Sleet is just so terrible. It gets in the trees. It damages trees. It damages the gardens in the springtime. If you look at this tree here, sometimes it breaks the tree branches. If you have a beautiful tree in your garden, it can damage your trees. So I really hate sleet, and it's freezing rain. Basically, it's freezing rain that hasn't become snow yet. It's usually at about 1 or 2 degrees centigrade, we get sleet. Okay, there's your cultural point for today. I want to show Hayan's thing you did, your homework, because this is basically the goal for today, is to add some annotations to your writing. So I want to get that lined up for you here. And checked, I wrote, let's see, is it this one here? Yeah, this is really interesting. Would you like to read this, Hayan? Because this is actually your research that you're doing.
Yes, I'm writing my thesis right now with this topic.
Yeah, what an interesting topic. I really like this topic. It's wonderful. Let me just, I'm getting it ready for the share. I have too many screens up, and I have to go through all these pages to get to the document that Hayan sent me. All right, Hayan, would you like to read it for us? You have the main points, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Thank you for listing those again, because they're good review. The history of the topic, the current situation regarding the topic. Oh, my mistake. Or did you make that? Regarding the topic. Different perspectives on the topic, and definitions of key terms and statistics. All right, there you go, Hayan. I'm going to take a break. So you can read.
The concept of smart homes began to develop in the early 2000s, when the first residential automation system appeared. In Russia, the introduction of such technologies began in the 2010s with a focus on safety and energy efficiency. Since 2014, more than 450,000 pensioners from 76 regions of Russia have taken part in the social program Digital Equality supported by the Pension Fund of Russia and Rostelecom. Rostelecom has become one of the leading operators in the market, offering integrated solutions for a smart home. As a part of the project, pensioners have the opportunity to learn how to make an appointment with doctors, pay for services, and communicate with relatives without leaving home. Research has shown that the publication trend on smart homes has increased since 2015. It is clear that the growth of smart home systems globally is inextricably linked with the development of the Internet of Things. The Russian market of smart homes is at the stage of active growth with an annual increase in sales by 10 to 15%. However, demand for decisions for a smart home in Russia is still 10 times lower than in developed countries. Moreover, currently, many people still hire caregivers because they are not familiar with the technology or do not fully understand the benefits of smart homes. This creates a gap in the marketing strategy of Rostelecom smart home products closer to the target audience set by the government. While device of a smart home can significantly improve the quality of life of older people, providing them with safety, comfort, and independence. In addition, the development of smart apartments also accelerates the development of smart cities with electronic healthcare systems more suitable for all ages.
Yeah, really nice. And so if we look at the different perspectives, I was impressed by this because here you recognize there are some limitations that there's only been an increase of 10 to 15%. And from reading the first part here, Hayan, I get the feeling that the government in cooperation with Rosalcom wanted a much stronger launch or rollout of the system, that their expectations were higher. So this is a balanced perspective to show that the results have been a little disappointing. Would that be fair to say, Hayan?
Yes, it's little disappointing. I wanted to publish a paper, but it's so hard because the pensioner don't have a lot of money, but their children have. So right now I'm trying to make a marketing program for the children, like
Yeah,
who have money to buy smart home product for their parents.
yeah. And that's the different perspectives on the topic. Really good. And so with this kind of thing, Hayan, you could use vocabulary for that. When they first introduced the smart homes, rollout, launch, etc., for the start of the new system. The rollout. Do you know rollout, Hayan? Rollout. It's a great
No.
business word. Rollout is when they begin a new program and they have expectations. And it's the very first stages of introducing a new product or service to the public is called the rollout. Actually, you use the with it, the rollout. Launch date, that's another one. Launch date. Started with rockets for NASA in the 1950s and 60s, but launch date is now used for any kind of marketing, a new product, a launch date, or release date. And release date comes from releasing products as well. So those are all pretty much the same. Launch date, release date, the rollout. Okay. And then the second part of why I really like this, Hayan, is you provided 4 citations or notes just in your first paragraph. So this is a really good example for the fellow classmate students to see, is that even for a simple starting paragraph, you're going to have 4 sources already. And this is pretty common in academic writing. So really nice work. Are there any questions from Fook or Lean or An or Hayan about this really nice presentation of ideas in a introduction, of course. That was the focus last week, was on introductions. Okay. All right, so let's see, just seeing if Kwan, you came. Hello, Kwan. Hello, Tintin. How are you guys? Mr. Tintin, how are you?
Great.
Hey, Tintin, is it spring in Germany?
Yeah,
So you get some tulips, like Dutch tulips?
everywhere.
Nice, nice, really nice. And do you celebrate Easter in Germany?
My family not, but my friends, yeah.
So do your friends eat Easter candy like chocolate rabbits and chocolate eggs?
Yeah, I think so.
It's kind of fun. I like it. It doesn't have to be Christian. It can be just celebration of spring. All right. Okay, so for today's lesson, let me get this ready. One moment, please. And one moment, a little more. Okay, yeah. So this is part 2 of the introductions because I found this topic really interesting. And I took a picture from the textbook here. And there it is. So I wrote, hello, everyone. I hope you enjoyed your 2 weeks holiday, the Ancient Emperors of Vietnam holiday. I had a quiet time. It's always nice. I'm a very honest student in one of my other academic classes who turned in his homework with a note that read, teacher, I worked with AI to get this assignment done. Sorry. We'll keep the boy's name secret. He's an honest guy. His mother is a teacher, by the way. I do appreciate his honesty. This made me think of an idea. So we have to review the introduction we studied from 2 weeks ago. So I will put the textbook example here. This comes directly from the textbook that I'm using. Let's see, Leon, would you like to read this? If you can read it, I took a picture this afternoon. And it's called demographers or demographers, but better to say demographers.
Demographers predict that the world's population will reach 9 million by the middle of the 21st century. Competition for the scarce resources will certainly intensify as a result. With one result of particular concern, food, the United Nations reports that that close to 9 billion people are suffering from chronic hunger. Food at the population continues to grow. The figure is sure to increase. So attempts are being made to meet the demand through more industrialized food production, which aims for higher and quicker yields of current food sources. However, industrializing usually requires vast amounts of resources and produce large quantifier of greenhouse gases, leading to concern over the environment sustainability of agricultural industrialization. Therefore, the challenge is not only how to feed the bulging population, but how to do so sustainably. Perhaps the answer lies not in trying to produce higher yields of current food sources, but instead in finding alternative food sources. One possible solution then is entomophagy, the scientific term of eating insects. Research has shown that insects have several major advantages at a food source in terms of nutrient, cost, safety, environmental impact. Of course, it can be argued that the perception of insects as disgusting pests mean that they will never be considered as a food source, as a source of food in many countries. Yet attempts should be made to change this negative perception, as entomophagy offers a realistic and sustainable food source in the world where population increase shows no sign of abating.
Yeah, very good, Leon. I really like this writing sample from the textbook because if you notice, certain parts of this have almost a conversational tone. And when you're writing, sometimes it's useful, sometimes helpful to start having a conversation with yourself, because you can really think out ideas that are somewhat complicated by using your own style of language. For example, here, of course, it can be argued that the perception of insects as disgusting pests, it's like almost having a conversation with someone, or in a debate, you would say, of course, it can be argued, right? And it's okay to put that directly into your writing. It makes it personable and interesting for your readers, even if it's a very strict college professor or secondary school teacher. This is totally acceptable to write something like, of course, it can be argued. Again, the feeling is of having a conversation with yourself, but it's a very intelligent, well-supported conversation you're having, right? And then, of course, there are the statistics, the history, the current situation, the definition of terms and different perspectives. Remember, this can all be changed. You don't have to start with statistics. These could be used as an eye-grabbing hook. We talked about the hook. The hook is used to draw the reader into your work. So they put the statistic includes this really big number, 9 billion, which is kind of shocking. So they put it right there in the first sentence as your hook. And it's starting with statistics right away. But again, you could, start, well, of course, these have to go here and here. Statistics are here, but it could be that statistics would also be here. You could just start with an amazing hook. Okay, so I looked at this. I knew there was information about demographers, the population going to 9 billion, the use of insect protein powder as a food, or eating them directly. Some of our students talked about that in Vietnam, eating insects directly in some regions. I think that was Henry. Said, yeah, we have to admit we do eat them. I think, and you also said, we have to be honest, we do eat them. That was interesting. Okay, so I thought about asking AI, in this case, it's ChatGPT, to write an introduction on the same topic or thesis, which is societies around the world. I'll put that here for you. Societies around the world turning to insects as a protein source. I want to see if ChatGPT can cover the statistics, the history, the current situation, definition of key terms, and different perspectives, all in one sort of long introduction to an essay. And I did this in 2 stages. In the first stage, I entered only one prompt. The prompt was, with the quotations here, ChatGPT, could you provide the introductory paragraph for a 7 to 10 page college level social sciences essay on insects as a possible protein source for humanity's growing need for sources? This was the response that ChatGPT gave me. Let's see, Kwan's microphone isn't working. And do you want to read? Mr. Ann's smiling. No. All right. Anna's going to go silent. That's fine, Anne. Let's try to Mr. Henry. Are you there?
Yes.
Henry, would you like to read for us? This is the response from ChatGPT.
Okay. As the global population continues to surge toward an estimated 10 billion by the year 2050, the pressure to identify sustainable and
You're good.
equitable
Equitable.
food source has become a defining challenge of our time. Traditional livestock farming, while along the backbone of human protein and consumption, is increasingly criticized for its environmental impact, resource intensiveness, and vulnerability to climate change. In this context, entomophagy, the practice of consuming insects, has emerged as a compelling alternative worthy of serious economic consideration. Long embraced in many non-Western cultures, edible insects offer high nutritional value, requires significantly less land and water, and emit fewer greenhouse and gases than conventional livestock. This essay explores the viability of insects as a protein source through a multidisciplinary. I don't know how to read that.
Yeah, multidisciplinary.
lens, examining oh shoot,
You're good, Henry. Environmental.
environmental, economic, social, culture, and ethical dimensions to assess whether insect-based food system could play a meaningful role in addressing humanity and evolving nutritional demands.
Nice, Henry. It's good. Don't worry. You're like 90% pronunciation is good on that. Now, the thing I'll say about this blue paragraph that ChatGPT gave me is that it has so many well-used academic expressions that you could use throughout an entire essay. For example, this multidisciplinary lens means you're going to use sciences like geography, geology, biology, chemistry. You're going to use a lot of sciences, but you're also going to use social sciences, the history of eating insects, and sociology, what societies eat them. So that's what they mean by multidisciplinary lens. And it's perfectly okay to put that right in an introduction when you have to give your thesis statement. They'll talk about, well, what are your methods? You say, well, I'm going to examine this qualitatively through a multidisciplinary lens. And this means you're going to use a lot of different sciences and social sciences to describe this idea of eating insects. So that's such a great word, multidisciplinary lens. So to ChatGPT, I say pretty good introduction. I was impressed by this. Let me ask Haiyan, did you catch this, Haiyan, in the very first sentence? What did ChatGPT do? And I didn't even have to ask it. It just did this.
But they don't have any source, like 10 billion by 2050.
No
Where is
sources.
the source?
So it gave you that 10 billion, but did it put a notation? I don't see one, right? But one thing it did do, it covered the statistics part, right? It got the statistics right in there because, you know, my original prompt, I wrote, ChatGPT, could you provide introductory paragraph for a 7-page college level social sciences? So ChatGPT knew that it should probably put some statistics in there. But as Haiyan said, we don't see any citations or notations. And that's a really good observation, Haiyan, because you'll see what happens in part 2 when I ask ChatGPT again, right? So my feelings about it. Haiyan, what do you think? Lian, Ann, what do you guys think of this as a introductory paragraph? Do you think it's pretty good for a first year, second year college student? But Lian, you're a teacher, right?
No, I'm not a teacher.
Oh, okay.
I can answer your question.
Oh,
I think it for not native language. I
Yeah.
think it too much academic word.
Yes, this is true.
And,
Multidisciplinary. Yeah. And any word, here's
more
just a quick.
information.
Yeah. See, I went to a really good high school in America in the suburbs of Chicago, and several of the teachers could speak classical Latin and Greek. So they would teach us little things. For example, any Latin word with PHAG is pronounced phage. It means to eat. So it's the old Latin word to eat. So when you see entomophagy, it means eating insects, right? So that's, you know, little things like that are helpful. Phage. So I did this as part 2. Let's examine this response and see if it has the criteria. Yes, we got statistics. Did we get some history in there? Yeah, kind of here. A little bit here. It talks about traditional backbone of human protein consumption. Yeah, a little bit of history. But I made demands more specific, and this is really important. If you feel that the ChatGPT or whatever AI you're using, if you feel it's not adequate, I made more demands that are more specific. So I phrased this, could you provide the same introduction for a college level academic social sciences paper with the inclusion of these specific criteria: statistics, history of the current situation, the definition of key terms, and different perspectives? And so this is where the ChatGPT is getting pretty intelligent. Haiyan, would you like to read these? Here's the next one. It gave 2 possibilities.
ChatGPT was feeling generous and give me two possible introductions. Let's compare the two to see which one you think is the best. As the global population accelerates towards a projected 9.7 billion by 2050, the United Nations
Mm.
estimates that food production increased to meet rising demand, yet doing so without
Oh, exacerbating. Oh, there's a little bit of a breakup.
rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, degradation remains a critical challenge. Conventional livestock farming, long the dominant source of dietary protein, accounts for nearly 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions and consumes vast amounts of land, water, and feed. In response, scientists, policymakers, and food security experts have increasingly turned their attention to entomophagy, the practice of consuming insects as potentially sustainable alternative. While commonly practiced in many parts of Asia, Africa, and Latin America for centuries, entomophagy remains stigmatized in much of Western world, where cultural aversions often overshadows evidence of its nutritional efficiency and environmental benefits. Key terms such as food security, sustainable protein, and cultural food norms frame a global debate that spans ecological, economic, and sociological domains. The essay explores the historical role and current viability of insects as a protein source, comparing the scientific, economic, and ethics perspectives that shape our understanding of whether entomophagy can contribute meaningfully to solving one of humanity's most urgent dilemmas.
Yeah.
Why to solving? I thought it like to solve, meaning
Contribute meaningfully to solving. Yeah, that can be used. This is weird. This is a really good question. Contribute meaningfully to solve, right?
yeah.
And so I'm wondering if ChatGPT made a mistake. If you used the ing, the gerund, and you're very good with your grammar, Hyan, I've noticed, then we could do this, right? Meaningfully in solving one of humanity's most urgent claims. You can use one or the other, but if you meaningfully to solving, this looks like a pretty bad grammar mistake, doesn't it? Like, look at it. I'm glad you caught that, Hyan. I didn't catch it because I was focusing on something else. But yeah, nice work. Let's use this is called the infinitive form. And so Hyan had a question. Was it you, Hyan? Or was it
Me,
that was about 6 weeks ago when the class first started. You said, teacher, can you help me? They're mixing infinitive with gerund here, I think. And I said, yeah, you're absolutely right. Let's just stay with the infinitive here. To solve, to play, to run, to jump, to be happy. It's all the infinitive works best, right? Nice. Hyan, what do you think? Did you catch what happened here in the very first sentence? What was ChatGPT very good at doing? It was a good boy.
Like it work more concrete number, like
Yeah, lots of concrete numbers. But what's the weakness? And you'll know the answer to this, of course. Remember your introduction? We had 4 beautiful
citation.
no citations. So then this is really crazy. This is the second response that ChatGPT, and I'm going to give you a peek. This here. Finally, ChatGPT suggesting putting in APA or Chicago style citations. ChatGPT asked me, do you want citations? I said, yes, of course, right? It's just like, ask me this question when everything was finished, right? So let me see, is Fook, are you here? Fook, would you like to contribute? You get a chance to read for us? Mr. Fook, how are you? Fook Tue, if I'm pronouncing it correctly. Fook Tue. Let's see, is Fook Tue here? Okay. Tintin, Fook Tue, are you guys here? Mr. Tintin, are you here?
Yeah.
Hey, Tintin, how are you?
I'm still good.
Still good. Microphone is still good. Kwan's having difficulty with his microphone. That's why I asked. All right, Tintin. APA is the American Psychological Association, and their format since the 1950s, I think, has been number one and number one are University of Chicago and APA, and those are used all around the world. So, Mr. Tintin, can you read this one? Some of the vocabulary might be difficult, but give it a try.
As the global population accelerates towards a projected 2.7 billion by 2050, the United Nations estimates that food production must increase by approximately 70% to meet rising demand. Food and Agriculture Organization, FAO, 2009. Yet expanding traditional agricultural systems without exacerbating environmental degradation remains a critical challenge. Conventional livestock farming, long the dominant source of dietary protein, accounts for nearly 14.5% of global greenhouse gas emissions and consumes significant quantities of land, water, and feed. In response, scientists, policymakers, and food security experts have increasingly turned their attention to entomophagy, the practice of consuming insects as a potential sustainable alternative. While entomophagy has been practiced for centuries across Asia, Africa, and Latin America, it still remains stigmatized in many Western societies where cultural norms often overshadow its nutritional and ecological advantages. Key conversation that spans environmental, economic, and sociological domains. This paper explores the historical role and current viability of insects as a protein source, comparing the scientific, economic, and ethical perspectives that shape the emerging debate over entomophagy's role in global food security.
Very nice reading, Mr. Tintin. Hey, Tintin, this part here, do you see? I'm going to underline this because this is the conclusion. I've noticed they've done this in most of the examples. This paper explores, this states directly what you're going to discuss in your paper. So it's okay to use this terminology. This paper explores anything you want to talk about in your paper. It's okay to write, this paper explores. It tells the people reading it, your professor, exactly what you're going to talk about. It's a really direct statement. By the way, Mr. Tintin, do you see this here? This von Huys, right?
Yeah.
What is that in German? This is Dutch, a Dutch family name. What do you think it is in German?
I have no idea.
Are you ready?
Oh.
Von Haus, from the house. What is that house? I don't know. But yeah, von Huys from the English, from the house. Whose house? I don't know. It just means house.
Maybe that's his name. The name from
yeah,
the author or something.
Yeah, the author. In English, you would say householder. But in German, it's von Haus, and von Huys means a person who lives in a house. It's kind of strange, right? Oh, I know what would it be. The English name is Houseman. That's a famous name, Houseman. Okay. All right, Mr. Tintin, we have the statistics here, right? What do you think? We have 3 samples. Which do you think is the strongest introduction?
I personally think like the first.
Yeah. Why do you like number 1 better, Mr. Tintin?
I just like the information it gives, and yeah.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. It's an interesting observation, Tintin, because when in sample number 3, the ChatGPT put it in all of these notes here, von Huys 2013, Gerber et al. 2013. FAO is a United Nations organization, so you just have to write FAO 2009, that's recognizable as Food and Agricultural Organization. There are three things here, and there they are. And there's the 1, 2, 3. So it does kind of interrupt the flow, but by college level work, Tintin, you have to put that in there, unfortunately, right? So
Oh.
yeah, your observation is interesting though, because you're right. In number one, it's just so smooth. The wording is really nice, isn't it? It reads really nicely, right?
And it's not as complicated as the other ones.
Yeah. When you put more, notes, it gets more complicated. Very good, Tintin. There was another thing, talking about academic language and some of this. Leanne, you were saying some of this is difficult vocabulary. Yeah, it definitely is. As I was going through this again, here's another one. Frame a global conversation. Oh, this is used so much in academic writing, right? These are like the golden phrases that they use in academic writing. So definitely save tonight's teaching notes, because you can go to this as a resource to add little bits of spice to your writing. For example, frame a global conversation. This word framing is used so much in academic writing. I'll put it here, framing. Oh, framing. How were we going to frame the problem? Frame the problem, okay? All right, now here's the next thing I want to do is, if you see ChatGPT put in FAO.org, which I've used these documents in my own research, that's from the United Nations. That's a pretty easily accessible website. The Gerber, Steinfeld, Henderson. Oh, yes, this is what I wanted to show you. They use this in their notation. You guys, this et al. Now, in the other classes, I've taught Tintin and I've taught Quan. Many students in Vietnam just write ... And I said, please don't write ... You must write etc. or and so on, right? So don't write ... because that's used in social media, texting. It's too casual. So please don't use ... in your academic writing. You can use etc. or and so on. And etc. is pronounced this way. It's etc. etc. All right. Hello, Hyan. What would you like to say?
I have question, like if my professor doesn't allow us to use or and so on, because one time I wrote it and then he
Okay.
just let it. So I don't know how in case if I want to write.
Okay. Maybe don't even use and so on. Thank you, Hyan, for that. That's really good. Now, listen, the ETC literally comes from Roman speaking from 2,000 years ago, etc. Literally means and so on. How about this other one, though? This et al. Hyan, have you seen et al. And other students et al.?
Yes, et al. It mean and other co-authors.
Yeah. And others, yeah. Very good. So you guys, it's okay to use et al. So Gerber et al. Means other scientists helped with this research. Here in this abbreviated parentheses, it's Gerber et al. But if you go down here, you can actually see all the names of Gerber's associates, colleagues who worked on this paper. We have Gerber, Steinfeld, Henderson, Motet, Opio, Dijkman is a Dutch name, Tempio. So there are like 5 international researchers on this. So that's why in your quick notes here, it's good just to write et al. You don't have to put all the researchers, everybody, because that would just make such a long citation. It really breaks apart a really strong introduction. So it's best to use et al. Okay. Now, the next point I want to make is ChatGPT actually gave me these sources, which is interesting because I use the free 3.5 version. They used to make you pay for 4.0 to give you the citation sources. Now it's become competitive for AI. So they're, once again, 3.5 is offering citations, which is a beautiful thing, right? Because what you can do with citations, this is where I wrote here. Let's see. I'll read what I wrote earlier. As a teacher of many years, I was thinking, is it possible to reach a compromise with AI where AI writes a nice introduction that you check, of course, to see if it fits your needs? you then paraphrase what is on offer. So with that first example, paraphrase that, change some of the words. This does not take too long, and you make the introduction your own and avoid charges of plagiarism or copying by your teachers. But most importantly, ChatGPT just saved a college level student. Days and days of research are saved by connecting you to the sources. So this was really interesting for me as I prepared your lesson this afternoon. I realized that by putting the 3 sources, it just saves so much time. And I did this for a biology teacher in Taipei at the high school. I used my friend's 4.0 version at the next desk in the teacher's room, and I saved her 2 weeks of research time just by asking ChatGPT for a list of 25 sources for her own paper that she had wrote. She was really upset and stressed because she said, now I have to spend the next 2 weeks finding sources for each of these paragraphs that I wrote from my lecture notes. And I said, wait a minute, there's a better way. Let's put your entire essay into ChatGPT and said, can you provide citations for this? And ChatGPT did it in like 30 seconds. And she was actually like crying because she couldn't believe how great that was. It was actually a really wonderful experience. So what I was thinking of doing, we have this Van Huys here, and I'm going to highlight it here. I'm going to take this, and I'm going to put this into the Google search engine here. For one moment. Okay, so I'm going to go to find this Van Huys thing with you together. And what I hope to do with this is, one moment, please, I'll share my screen, is I'm going to go to the original article, and I'm going to try to make that magic work again. And there it is. And there it is. It gave me this, and I hope this works because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes Google gets a little weird. Yeah, there it is. Potential of insects as food and feeding and assuring. It's a wonderful source. It's right there. We have the abstract. Again, you can save so much time by reading what's called the abstract. It gives you can quickly say, this is good for my research, or you can say, no, this doesn't work with my research. It's not very good. And then how interesting, related articles from annual reviews. Oh, they're being so kind. What is the search? It's called the annual reviews. This is a wonderful source. So you guys maybe take note that it's called the annual reviews, because annual reviews, I've never used them before. But if you look at this, they have this thing, related articles. So it gives you all these related articles. So let's say your professor says, I want to see at least 20 to 25 sources for this paper. Look at this beautiful list. This is enough for a master's degree thesis or dissertation. It goes on and on and on. All you have to do is click one of these, like Google Scholar, Google. Of course, it's all Google Scholar because we're using Google as our search engine, right? So if you have Google Scholar, you can get anything you want about insects being used for food, and you can really create a lot of sources for yourself and save so much time. Again, this normally would take like 2 weeks of research, and you have it all here. Now, don't just put the sources down. This is what we used to do in high school when we were lazy. We would use 3 sources, and then we would put 10 more sources that we didn't even read and say, oh, that's part of what we used for our research. And that's not very honest, but that's what we had to do because our teachers didn't give us much time to do these papers. But when you're in college, take the time to at least read the abstracts on these papers to see if they agree or disagree with your research. And remember, it's perfectly okay to come up with points that go against your thesis, right? So it's acceptable to find some of these that put a criticism or a critique into your paper. So isn't that wonderful? What do you think, Hayang?
I have a question, like some of the papers that I cannot access, and then I only can the abstract. But if I want to make this citation for my work,
Yeah.
can I cite it, but only talk to the but only notice to my reader that is only the abstract, and then I didn't have chance to
Right.
access to the whole paper.
Well, this is interesting because if you look at the list, it will take you to the original article, but it actually has page 412 to 419. So Hyan, if you want to skip the abstract and go directly to those pages, you could probably read 7 of those pages in about 20 minutes or a half an hour. And then that can become a really good citation within your work. Does that answer your question?
No, it's not answer. I mean,
Oh.
like some of the paper, I really like it, but I cannot accept to read the whole paper. I can
Oh,
only
okay.
read
Yeah. Put it in your bibliography. You
the
know, it's
abstract.
okay to do that, Hyan. And then if the teacher, I mean, if it's a really strict professor, they'll say, Hyan, I didn't see this in the paper, but you have it in your
Because
bibliography. Yeah. You could put it, you know what you could do? Actually, for footnotes, if you can do a footnote and have like one and then another footnote, you could write, this was used in the research, however, I didn't use a direct quotation from this or something. You could actually use that as an alternative footnote. I've done that sometimes too. I say, you know, this is based on the researcher of so-and-so. However, I didn't put it as an actual source. It's just I was inspired by this line of research. You know, if you're honest to your professor, you explain that. It's okay to do that sometimes.
Okay, I got it. Thank you so much.
Does that kind of help? I hope I'm
Yes.
answering. Because you want what you want to say is it's not directly in the paper, but I actually did read this abstract, right?
Yes.
You know, if you were with really good relations with your professor, you could say, hey, professor, you're supervising my research. Can I explain something to you? This abstract is good and it put me in a good direction, but I don't want to actually use it in the paper and then find out what their reaction is. You know, the worst thing they're going to say is, oh, Hyan, just put it in your bibliography anyway, right? And they say, okay, thank you, professor. You know, if it's a nice professor, okay. What else about this list? Actually giving you the page numbers. Again, this saves you so much time, everybody. So I'm really happy to see this. Hyan, what I want to do with this search engine, though, let's have a little fun with it. You called it Smart Home, Russia. What is it called? Rostocolo was the name of the company?
Rostelecom.
Yeah, Rostelecom. Rostelecom. And let's say
10 years.
10-year plan or project?
Project.
Okay. Okay, let's see how good this annual reviews is. We're going to check it in real time right now. Oh, 0. This is embarrassing. It gave me no results. Well, that's not very nice.
I think we should delete Rostelecom in Russia, just like a normal marketing project for smart home.
Okay. Okay, let's try that. Yay, there we go. Renewable energy markets, power of development, urbanization. Interesting, it has abstracts here too. So Hyan, it has little abstracts to see if, this looks good. Not that one. Hyan, of all these, I'm looking at this one. What do you think?
I think it's good, but it's in 2019, so a little bit old.
Oh, it's a little bit too old.
Yeah, too old.
Nice point. Did everybody just catch that? Hyan was looking at the date here, right? Oh, I didn't even notice that, Hyan, so thank you. July 2013, everybody, that's 12 years ago. So it might not be cutting edge research, right? So, okay. Again, 2010. Oh no. See, these are all available through Google Scholar, Hyan. So I think the reason why they're outdated is because they're anyone can share them or use them. I think that's what's going on in that situation. If it's like from 1 or 2 years ago, then they want you to use Springer and pay for it, right? And so it's like it's a money thing, right? They'll give you something from 12 years ago for free. Right. All right, any questions, everybody? We covered so much ground. I just want to see if Fook is here. If Fook wanted to contribute anything to our conversation. Fook, are you there? Hello, Fook. How are you? I'm sorry I didn't
Yeah,
call on you.
thank you.
How are you doing?
Yes, busy to busy.
Too
Just
busy.
lessons. Yes, try to follow the lesson.
Did you have any questions about the material we used tonight?
Today, not that.
Okay. Probably the most important point is looking at Hyan's homework, where she had 4 notations right in her introduction, is probably the best advice I would give you tonight. Make sure you have some notes in there. Even though it's an introduction, it's good to really let your teacher know, your professor know, what sources you are using right away. All right, Fook, what is your research, by the way? Are you a finance person or university?
No, I also in marketing and administration.
Marketing. And is it
Yes.
electrician or nutrition?
Marketing for enterprise, branding, and brand management.
What type of brands do you work with, Fook?
In general, but recently I focus to Unilever and Kindle in Vietnam.
Unilever. Yeah, Unilever is so powerful as a multinational company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
one foreign and one local company.
Yeah. It's crazy, Fook. I had to use Unilever in my master's work because Unilever is in so many countries that the Unilever people in Holland was one of its big areas. The American intelligence and the British intelligence used Unilever business people to find out things around the world. It's kind of bad, but this is what they did, They used Unilever to collect information. So, for example, Unilever executives who traveled to the old Soviet Union said, did you know the Soviets are really using propaganda against Americans about Black people are not allowed to join the army or the Air Force? And there are posters up in Moscow showing, like, oh, is America really a free country because you don't let your Black people join white people? And so Unilever executives actually told that to the CIA. And I found I had to go through the archives late at night because I was researching how the American Army and Air Force and Navy allowed Black people to be equal members. And I found that note, and another researcher used it, Fook. And so I had this terrible dilemma that I couldn't use that note because let me leave you with one last thing. Does everyone know this, this Grammarly? You know Grammarly? That they always advertise, let Grammarly help you write your research paper. Grammarly has they have a sister company from Mumbai, India called Turnitin. And Turnitin is just, I just call it so evil. Universities put your dissertations, your thesis, your essays to see how much you copied. They're looking for copying, plagiarism, and they give you numbers like 25% is pretty good. It means you didn't copy too much. But if you're over 35%, they think that maybe you borrowed too much from other scholars. So I had a practice version of Turnitin, and I put my essay through there, and it gave me like 40%. And I said, 40%, I'm not happy with that. And why did they do that? And it came down to one quote, Fook. It was the information from Unilever was used by top academic to write a paper about bringing Black people into the American Army as equal citizens. And so I took out the Unilever quote and I went all the way down to 25% because of one notation, one citation. So this is how frustrating it could be. Hyan, have you had experience with Turnitin?
Yes, I don't use that Turnitin here, but we have another system. It's called anti-plagiat. So I'm very frustrated because Russian is my native language. So whenever I want to translate something from my native language, Vietnamese into Russian, and then this system give me like AI generated, even though I translate it from, for example, Google Translate
Yeah.
or something.
And it's
So
really stressful, isn't it? Because then you have to
yes,
do a
it's
lot
very
more work.
stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very stressful. Do you know, Haiyan, a crazy example of Turnitin is my best friend in Hiroshima works at a college in Hiroshima. He's a professional translator and he teaches translation courses to young students. And he actually cited two of his own books that he's written in his research, and Turnitin gave him a 45% score. And he got angry. He said, "Why?" And they said, "Oh, you copied Professor McLean's work." And he said, "I'm Professor McLean." So they even put up a red flag if you are using your own. So if anyone has published anything, please be careful, okay? All right, so for homework, do you want homework? Are you all really busy? Tell me if you're busy. We did writing an introduction, so I tried to think what would be, I'll tell you what, let's do an interesting homework here. I will put this in the teaching notes one more time so we can formulate a good homework here for you. Let's see, is that right? Okay, so I will stop this share, maybe go back. I have to be careful because it might knock me out of Zoom if I don't do this properly. There it is. Okay, that's up on my screen. And so I left a little space at the bottom here for the pages. Okay, so for a homework, do you see how I got these results from ChatGPT? Can you do me a homework that this is kind of interesting homework? I have to teach you this skill anyway, because we've talked a lot about plagiarism and how to avoid it. Can you ask ChatGPT or any IA source to create an introduction paragraph on any topic you like, but change as many words as you can? So this is an interesting assignment. I gave this to another class. They enjoyed it. So the AI gives you an introduction on any topic, eating insects or whatever, marketing strategy, and then take that and then change as much of it as you can in a new paragraph. So you use the AI as a model, and then you have to just change as many words as you can. And so the goal right, it's to avoid plagiarism or copying. That's what the goal we're working here, because okay, so the goal is to avoid the plagiarism or copying, because so many universities and publications use AI to look for too much borrowing in academic writing. So what we're trying to do is, if Turnitin or the other one Haiyan mentioned, if it's giving you scores of like 40%, saying you copied too much, try by rewording your AI generated paragraph. See if we can get that down to 25%. That's the goal. So if you can try to get your paragraph down to 25%, it's a nicer, safer zone to be in. And so that's it. It's kind of simple homework, but I hope you like it. Okay. And I'm going to give that, that's actually a question. What do you think, Haiyan? Interesting homework?
Yes, I think interesting homework, but I have a question, like if ChatGPT give us a paragraph and then to review it, we have to put another information. So how can I write that this is a ChatGPT wrote and then that is what I already wrote?
Okay, so copy the ChatGPT response. into your word processing choice, like Microsoft Word, and then underneath it, write your changing of the language, we'll call it. So paste, copy and paste, copy and paste. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Yeah, so just simply copy and paste what ChatGPT said. That's what I did here, by the way, Hyan. If you look at this, I just copied that.
How do we know that we do it 40%?
Oh, yeah. So now that is, I'm just going to look at it and then I'll just do it from my, my evaluation, right? I can count. It'll be rough. It won't be perfect, right? But it'll give you a rough idea, right?
Okay.
And you say, well, what's your criteria, Brendan? Yeah, Professor Brendan, what are you going to do, teacher Brendan? I'll look at, like, if you change 10 words, right? Then I know you're getting close, okay? So work on your phrasing, work on your words. And I can tell right away that you're bringing that down. You're bringing that percentage down. Okay. So that's what the goal is. It's just bringing, if you could put it into one phrase, everybody, it's bringing those percentages down. Is the best way to describe it. Bringing those plagiarism or copying percentages down. That's the goal. Bringing those plagiarism or copying percentages down as much as you can. Okay, I have to start the next class in a few minutes, so I have to take a quick break. So I will write the homework again and put today's teaching notes in Zalo. So thank you very much. I really enjoyed today's class. It was a lot of good. Thank you. Thanks, Ann. Thanks, Spook. Bye-bye. See you, Henry. Take care. See you, Mr. Kwan. I hope you get your microphone to work. Tintin, thanks. Henry, thanks, Min. And we'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye. See you guys. Bye-bye.